Good morning, hello fellow humans. My name is Edward Bevilacqua. This is Department of Career Services, where our goal is to help our students and other interested people on their journey through this life. Today is the Ides of March. The Ides of March. We're going to talk about that today. Okay, just checking. Beep bop. What was I going to do with this? Okay, well, don't really remember right now. Messages. Device pairing, QR codes. Done. Mic drop. Okay, so here we are. It is the Ides of March. Today is the Ides of March. 2026 plus 44, 2070 years ago. On this day, the death of Julius Caesar, 2070 years ago. That's 26 plus 44, right? Right. The death of Julius Caesar. Okay, we're going to talk about that later. Who was Julius Caesar? Good guy, bad guy? Well, for a long time, he was portrayed in history as a bad guy because Augustus was the good guy. So if Augustus was the good guy, that meant what came before him was the bad guy. But quite a remarkable person. Before we get into that, let's look at our advice from an 80-year-old. Never deprive someone of hope. It might be all that they have. It might be all they have. Never deprive someone of hope. Okay, Seth Godin. Sitting in Zimbo. What? You're at the Zoom meeting on time and no one is there. Are you the ghost or is everyone else? We needed a word for this existential minor dread, and now we have one. Coordination is hard. P.S. The Ides of March are overrated as a threat. It's the chronic conditions that really get us in the end. Okay, very funny. Very funny. The Ides of March are overrated as a threat. That Caesar was warned by a soothsayer or somebody. It's the Ides of March. Beware, the Ides of March. The chronic conditions that really get us in the end, right? The grinding away, the things that are always there. Chip, 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 trip, trip, trip. Sand, sand, sand. Wind blowing. Sitting in Zimbo. Okay. That's going to catch on. That's a meme. That's going to catch on. Remember, you heard it here first. Zimbo. That's where you're the only person on a Zoom call and you're waiting for everyone else, wondering if you got it wrong or did they get it wrong. Okay. Today, we would be amiss to not mention to not mention this. This is day 7 of week 3, State Pen Workbook. Right. This is the end of week 3. Next week, we go to Monday. Tomorrow, we start with week 4, which is where we pull it all together. We know our purpose, to figure out who am I and why do I behave the way I do, prepare for the adventure of a lifetime. And to do that, to maximize this adventure, we have to take care of our body, our mind, our emotions, and our spiritual direction. And we need other people to do that. So next week, we're at the stage of, okay, we know our purpose, we know what we're doing, we know the adventure we're heading on. We don't know, we know we have the general direction guided by the North Star. We have that. We have a good vessel to carry us there. Our body is good, our brain is good, our emotions are tight. We have a good vessel to get us there. We have people to help us get there. So tomorrow we start and the journey is afoot. We're greyhounds at the slicks. And then this. Okay, so fun. Let's talk about the Ides of March and Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, born 100 BC into a royal family, noble family, patrician family, kind of short on cash. And this is a smart kid, smart guy. And he knew he was smart. So not like some of them, like Cincinnatus, old Cincinnatus, that were humble and modest. I'm trying to think of who was it that was held off. The guys at the gate, on the bridge. He wasn't that. He was vain. And he was well educated. And he joined the military at the age of about 15, 17, whatever, doing the Corso Honorum, and had some troubles with the ruling people. He was on the proscription list because, I don't know if it was Marius or Sulla, I don't remember, not important. Wanted him to divorce his wife, his young wife. He was young wife. And he did. And he had to flee, and he was kidnapped and held for ransom, which was a thing. And they sent the ransom note, but he told him it was too low to make it higher. And he also warned them that he would come back and kill them, which he did. So, and he was smart. He's known as the second greatest lawyer in Roman history, to Cicero. So we call him Cicero, but they would have called him Cicero. Excellent horseman. While he was writing his famous book, The Gallic Wars, he would have 2 scribes dictating as he was doing it, as he was recording. Great book, The Gallic Wars. Everybody should be required reading, to give people a sense that these were not dumb people. These were people more sophisticated than we are in many ways, more sophisticated. Well, why? Well, one thing is they didn't know. Julius Caesar did not declare his horse a senator. Now, they were more sophisticated than us in many ways in that they didn't have technology. They didn't have satellites. So when Caesar was conquering Gaul, he didn't have satellites, internet, radio, fax machines, vehicles, motorized vehicles, airplanes. They did it the hard way, on foot and by hand. They did have projectiles, but those were, they didn't use explosives, ballistics to fire them. They used tension, catapults, javelins, things like that. What other weapons did they have that were mechanized? Catapults. There's one that shot a bunch of things out of it. The gladius. Aha! Here is a Roman gladius. Right, Atticus von Atticus? This is a scale model of a Roman gladius. And it's about the same weight as a Roman gladius. Now, a real Roman gladius would come to a very sharp point, and it was a stabbing, not a slashing weapon, stabbing. And you could imagine if this had a very sharp point, you wouldn't need to have a lot of pressure to get this to go into your body. It could do a lot of damage, holding your shield, covering part of the neck guy next to you, and you. Right? Just doing that all day long. So it goes in small. You get it in 6 to 8 inches. It's 3 inches wide, 3-inch gash. Guys might put a little twist on it. In, twist, in, twist. Maybe not, but hit a vital organ. Done. Next. So, Julius Caesar was a problem in Rome. And they decided we'll send him out to Gaul, where he'll become irrelevant because he draws the spotlight. He's screwing the women. He wears his sword belt loosely. Might mean he was kind of light in the loafers. Really smart. And he's a problem for us here in Rome. So we'll send him out to Gaul. And maybe we'll get lucky and he'll die. Maybe he'll be somewhat successful and just go for the money. But no. He's out there for 10 years. He's writing a book. And as the installments would come in, his popularity grew. Because it was, what do we hear from Caesar? What do we hear? What do we hear? What's going on out there? He built a bridge across the Rhine River, first person. Romans were having problems with the barbarians coming across with little skirmishes, attacking Roman villages, outposts on this side of the Rhine. So Caesar decided to build a bridge across this very wide river. I don't know how wide it is, but my hunch is sort of like the Mississippi. You can't see the other side. He decides to build a bridge. And you can imagine in the beginning, the Germans, the barbarians, are laughing. How crazy are these guys? They think they can build a bridge across this river, but you get, several thousand men chopping trees, doing this, digging, making cement, doing all of these things, pounding, engineers and people who were capable, able to read. Typical soldier, I think, could read. And but they knew how to use tools because they did a lot of road building and tree chopping. And then you can get to the point where you can imagine the barbarians saying, "Oh man, these mofo's are going to do it. They're actually going to build a bridge across the river." Yes, so Maticus skips ahead to the great battle with Pompey. We're in Germany. We're in the Gallic Wars. And then he marches his army across the bridge and basically says, "What's up? We're here." And of course, the Germans do not want to engage. It would be futile. And Caesar doesn't feel the need to pursue them, but he lets them know, we can come back anytime we want. You saw that bridge we built, we can come back anytime we want. And then when they left, they tore the bridge down. Some might say that's the strategy President Trump is going to do in Iran. Destroy all of their weapons, their military, their armaments, make them not a military power in the Middle East, and say, if you do it, if you try to build an army, if you try to have weapons of mass destruction, if you try to have a navy that is the threat, we will come back and destroy them again. As Caesar did. Then he didn't have problems, so he turned west and then had the major battle against Vercingetorix. I say we build a pipeline to the Red Sea. Vercingetorix, the Gallic, the king of all of the tribes, and Caesar chased him, pursued him, and he got up to a hill where the Romans couldn't get him. So they decided to have a siege warfare, and they built a wall around, a fence, a barricade around, so they couldn't get out. We'll just starve them out. Okay, great. We'll starve you out. Meanwhile, Vercingetorix calls all of the other tribes to come in. This might be, I don't know, kind of the number 200,000. So now Vercingetorix is up on the hill in a siege thing. He can't get out. They're starving him out. And all of the rest of the tribes come to save him. So Caesar does something incredibly unique, and that is he builds a wall to keep his people inside, to keep them safe. So they're like in a fort. So he's got an outer ring and the inner ring, enemies on both sides. And then he gets it so that there's a weak spot, in quotes, where the enemy decide to come in. It's a trap. The Romans wipe him out. Vercingetorix surrenders. He's brought back to Rome in chains, held in a cage. I think they had him for like 10 years before they killed him. And Caesar would take slaves. And he brought many, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. He was my friend, faithful and just. But Brutus says he was ambitious. And Brutus is an honorable man. And cut. We'll have to finish that later. The Ides of March. Let's pay a little bit of homage to Julius Caesar on this anniversary of his